Hello, my name is Sarah. I am 42 years old, sitting in my warm and cozy living room, wrapped in the quiet stillness that has become my daily companion. Even though the room is filled with the comforting familiarity of home, my heart is heavy with grief. As I write these words, I am navigating through a deep sense of loss and longing, trying to process emotions that often feel too overwhelming to put into words. Today, I find the courage to share my story, not just as a way to heal myself but in the hope that someone out there, going through a similar struggle, might find comfort in my words. Writing this is not easy, but it is necessary. It allows me to honor the love I had, the pain I carry, and the lessons life has forced upon me. I was blessed to share 18 wonderful years with my husband, Andrew. He was my rock, my best friend, and the love of my life. Our journey together was not always easy, but it was always worth it. We built a life together, full of dreams and laughter, leaning on each other through life's challenges. But just a few months ago, fate dealt me a devastating blow. Andrew was taken from me in a tragic car accident, and my world crumbled in an instant. I remember the exact moment I received the news. Time seemed to freeze, and the world around me became a blur. My heart shattered, and I could hardly breathe as the weight of those words sank in. It felt impossible to grasp the reality that he was truly gone. One moment, we were making plans for the future, and the next, I was a widow, trying to make sense of a world that suddenly felt empty and cruel. Our love was built on understanding and resilience. Both of us had difficult pasts that left us wounded, but together, we found healing. My childhood was marked by abandonment. My parents, lost in the grips of addiction, left me to fend for myself. The scars from that experience never fully faded. Andrew, too, carried his own burdens. His relationship with his mother, Evelyn, was complicated and painful. She struggled with addiction, making promises to change but always falling back into destructive patterns. Time and again, she let him down, using him for support only to disappear when he needed her the most. Despite our painful pasts, Andrew and I created a sanctuary in each other. We helped each other rise above our hardships, building a love that felt unshakable. For 3 years, Evelyn had been absent from our lives, and Andrew was finally accepting the harsh truth: his mother might never truly change. We had begun to move forward, cherishing the peace we had fought so hard to find. Then, everything changed. Losing Andrew was unbearable. I withdrew into myself, consumed by sorrow, unable to imagine a life without him. I wanted to lock myself away, to disappear into my grief, but time does not stop for anyone. No matter how deep the pain, life moved forward, forcing me to make the unbearable decisions that come with loss. Arranging his funeral was one of the hardest things I have ever done. Thankfully, I was not alone. Friends and family surrounded me with love and support, helping me through the most difficult days. We came together to honor Andrew, sharing stories of his kindness, his humor, and his strength. It was a beautiful service, filled with both tears and laughter, a tribute to the man who had touched so many lives. In the middle of this sorrowful gathering, an unexpected visitor arrived. The doorbell rang, cutting through the hushed conversations. When I opened the door, I found Evelyn standing there. She clutched a bottle of whiskey, an uneasy expression on her face. It was clear she had come seeking reconciliation, though her presence stirred a whirlwind of emotions within me. Anger, sadness, confusion, all mingled with my grief. For years, she had hurt Andrew, and in turn, she had hurt me. Yet, standing there, I saw something different in her eyes: regret, sorrow, and perhaps a desperate longing to make things right. Without thinking too much, I stepped forward and embraced her. We held each other tightly, crying together. It was a moment of unexpected understanding, where our shared grief bridged the gap that years of resentment had built. My family and friends, who knew the painful history between Evelyn and Andrew, watched cautiously but allowed her a place at our table. She opened up about her struggles, her regrets, and her love for Andrew, even though she had failed him in so many ways. As she spoke, I realized that despite everything, she was still a mother mourning her son. Her sorrow was real, and her regrets were heavy. As the evening came to an end, Evelyn remained behind, her presence quieter now, less strained. As we cleaned up, she turned to me with hesitant eyes and made a request that took me by surprise. "Sarah, I know I have no right to ask this, but may I spend some time in Andrew's room, just to be close to him? I just need to feel connected to him again, even if it's just for a moment." I hesitated. The idea of allowing her into that sacred space felt overwhelming, but as I looked at her, I saw the raw pain in her eyes, the same pain I carried. In that moment, I made a decision. Yes, Evelyn, I said softly, take all the time you need. She looked at me with tears brimming in her eyes, whispering a heartfelt, thank you. As she walked upstairs, I sat in silence, reflecting on the night's events. In the depths of grief, we had found an unexpected path toward healing, imperfect, painful, but perhaps necessary. Grief has a way of breaking down barriers. It reminds us that life is fleeting, that love, no matter how complicated, is precious, and that sometimes, the only way forward is through forgiveness. Evelyn and I may never fully mend the past, but in that moment, we found something worth holding on to, a chance to heal, even if just a little. As I stood in the quiet of the room, I found myself drawn to the objects that remained, the tangible pieces of his life. Each item carried a story, a memory, a whisper of the man he once was. With careful hands, I began sorting through his belongings, feeling a mix of sorrow and comfort as I touched the things that had once belonged to him. I reached for his favorite watch, the one he wore every day. The rhythmic ticking filled the silence, a soft but steady reminder of all the moments we had shared. My fingers traced the edges of his well-worn books, imagining how he must have held them in his hands, immersed in their pages. As I moved toward the dresser, I carefully examined the personal items that had been recovered from the wreck, the phone he always carried, his work bag filled with notes and reminders, his second watch, and his wallet. But as I scanned through everything, a deep unease settled over me. The wallet was missing. A sudden wave of panic gripped my chest. I turned the items over again, searching every pocket, every fold, as if it might somehow appear, but no matter how many times I looked, it was nowhere to be found. My breathing grew unsteady as I widened my search, pulling open drawers, checking between furniture, scouring every possible place it could be. The realization hit me hard. The wallet that had been returned from the accident was now missing. Desperation set in. Had I misplaced it? Had it never been returned to me in the first place? My hands trembled as I reached for my phone and dialed Gary's number. Gary had been a close friend of Andrew's, someone I could trust, and he had been there to retrieve Andrew's belongings after the crash. More importantly, as a dedicated officer, he would know how to handle something like this. The phone rang, each second stretching unbearably long. Finally, Gary's calm, steady voice came through. "Sarah, are you okay?" I swallowed hard, struggling to keep my voice even. "Gary, something's wrong. Andrew's wallet, it's gone. I had it, I know I did, but now I can't find it. You were the one who brought it back from the wreck, right?" There was a pause before Gary sighed heavily. "Yes, I brought it back with the rest of his things. I put it on the dresser myself." "You're saying it's missing now?" Relief flooded through me, confirming that I wasn't imagining things, but it was quickly replaced by dread. If he had left it here, then where could it have gone? And then, like a bolt of lightning, a horrifying realization struck me. Evelyn, Andrew's mother, my manipulative, conniving mother-in-law, she had been here, hovering like a shadow in my grief. She must have taken it when I wasn't paying attention, seizing the opportunity while I was too overwhelmed to notice. My hands curled into fists as I tried to contain my emotions. "Gary, I think Evelyn took it." He was silent for a moment before responding with a sharp edge of determination. "If she did, we'll get to the bottom of this. Andrew was one of my best friends, and I won't let her get away with this." His words were like a shield against the storm of emotions threatening to consume me. I wasn't alone in this fight. Whatever Evelyn was up to, we were going to find out. Days passed, and the weight of grief pressed down on me, but then another shock struck me hard. My phone buzzed with bank statements, and as I scrolled through them, my heart pounded. Transactions had started small, $1, $600 here, $1,000 there, but they were increasing. $5,000 withdrawals, large sums disappearing from Andrew's accounts. A sickening realization took hold of me. Someone was draining his savings, and I knew exactly who was behind it. I reached for my phone again and called Gary, my voice laced with urgency. "She's using his cards. She's stealing from him." Gary's response was immediate. "You need to cancel everything, his credit cards, his bank access, all of it. Stop her now." It was the logical thing to do, but something in me resisted. If I canceled the cards, she would know I was onto her. No, I needed more. I needed proof, and I needed to catch her in the act. A plan began forming in my mind. I would let her think she was getting away with it. I would let her keep spending, tracking every move she made. She thought she was in control, but I would be the one pulling the strings. Weeks passed, and every new charge she made was another nail in her coffin. I watched as she drained what wasn't hers, documenting every stolen dollar, every reckless purchase, and then, just as I had predicted, she came to me. One evening, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Evelyn standing there, her face a practiced mask of sorrow. "Oh, hello, Sarah," she greeted cautiously. "Hello, Evelyn," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Can I come in?" she asked, her tone hesitant. "No," I replied firmly, "you may not." She sighed, her eyes darting away. "I suspected as much. I don't blame you." I crossed my arms, waiting. I wasn't going to make this easy for her. "I imagine you've noticed Andrew's wallet is missing," she continued, her voice taking on a performative sadness. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. In my grief, I took it. I just needed something of his to hold on to, but I've realized it was wrong, so I came to return it to you." I stared at her, my stomach twisting with disgust. The lies flowed so easily from her lips. Did she think I was a fool? Still, I forced a small, knowing smile. I had let her dig her own grave, and soon, she would realize just how deep it was. "Really?" I asked, feigning surprise. "That's very thoughtful of you." The confrontation was only just beginning, and I was ready to reveal her for what she truly was. Justice was coming, and Evelyn had no idea what was about to hit her.